Hi, she's Trixie, and I'm Sarah, and this is Our Yarn World, a place where we come to share the love of yarn crafts and all that it gives us and what we hope it gives you. We're on episode 93 today.
Yeah.
I'm going to start this off letting you know that as we are filming this right now, it is midwinter break for my kids, so my eldest is with me on top of my youngest, so if you hear sound in the background, it's them, and if you see the stain on my shirt, it's because of them. So,
Mom life.
I'm just letting you guys know that, as always, there is a little in this video, and not that we're planning on them intervening, but with my dad not available today, we are at the grace of them being patient and just sticking to what we gave them to entertain them until we're done. So hopefully that works and they stay chill, but I just figured I'd give you that warning.
Yeah, heads up. Alrighty. Well, I've only gotten a little farther on this, but I don't know if you're going to notice this or not. We have changed colors.
We did?
Well, it is still red, but it's a different shade.
Oh yeah,
I don't
noticed.
know. I don't know if you're going to see it or not, but
yeah,
it's these.
We're probably not going to see it with saturation on the videos.
Right,
but
the top four are the different shade of red.
they're just a tad brighter.
Yeah.
It's like the same shade, but this one's much more like richer.
Deep red.
More richer in the darker tones, and this one embraces the lighter tones more, but it's like the same shade.
Yeah. But isn't that how it is in the tulip fields too? They have all the different variants of the colors, and then, you know, they've got the different shades of the colors too. So all the different colors in their different shades and stuff. And I just kind of thought, well, it's the same thing. So it's working out so beautifully. But I'm probably about 2/3 of the way done. And it's taken a lot longer for me on this blanket than it ever has on any other ones. But it's just because I have to think so much more and do so many different stitches and all that kind of stuff. Not that they're hard, but that you have to think about it so much. And you're changing yarn on two of them, and then the third one, the lace color has 2 lines of it, but you're changing it, you know, just about every time, and so that takes the time too and all that. So it will get done. It's
chugging along.
Yeah, and you know, everything that you do towards it is just another thing that it's almost there. It's almost there. I can't wait to see it when it's done. But I have something for you. And I've been cleaning up my office, and I have this thing from my grandmother, your great-grandmother. She was a crafter too, and she loved yarn work, and she loved all kinds of crafts, but especially stuff that held to yarn. Plastic canvas, crochet.
Yeah.
She made dolls. Whenever I get my doll's outfit cleaned up, because it's been in my closet, and my closet in my craft room, my office, is also the entryway to the attic. And so
She's a bit dusty.
Yeah, you get the fallout from the attic door opening and all that stuff. So she has to have her clothes laundered. But I will show you as soon as I get that done, because my granddaughter saw her today. Oh, I love this. And I'm like, honey, don't play with it yet. She needs to be cleaned. So, yeah. Anyway, so I have this. It is a case that is okay. When you open it, you have 2 sections. The top section is very shallow, but you can put like your patterns or pencils, pens, rulers, whatever you need to up in that top section. The bottom section has, let's take out the surprises. it has 2 of these in it, in the top part and the front part, and then it's got a sectioned off bottom or cubicles in there. And so I figured I would let her have this for all of your tools for your amigurumi toy collection, toy tools stuff. I also found wire that she could use and some darning needles. So I know that she needs all of this for her crafting. And it is now yours. From great-grandmother to you.
Thanks. I remember when she was passing, and she was older, living in a retirement home.
Yeah.
And she got diagnosed with cancer at stage 4.
Yeah.
And so
Throat cancer.
she knew that her time was coming quicker. And so as she was still in much more a conscious state, she kind of did an open will where she just gave everything to everyone much more while she was alive and still kicking. I apologize. Can you go sit down? Yes. Come on. Go.
No popcorn.
We'll get popcorn after. Go lay down. And the situation ended up being that when it was my turn for her to tell me what she wanted me to have, she ended up going into her closet and she grabbed all of her patterns and all of her crocheting stuff and all of her crafting stuff, and she handed it to me, and because she knew I was getting into that, and I just sat there being like, you know, Grandma, I don't even know how to do patterns, because at the time I wasn't very good at reading patterns at all.
Right.
I didn't know the concept of acknowledging it, and it was like an era of crocheting just handed to me, because these patterns were for creating clothes for dolls. Eventually, both my mom and I have dolls that we would love to be able to share. And it just gets to me how it was like, I didn't even realize it, but I've mentioned this to my mom outside of video making, that this desire to make toys I feel like it comes by naturally, because, you know, I have influences from other grandparents and other grandmothers that taught me some of my crafting, and it wasn't from her. And like so, you know, I'm talking about a grandmother that is my maternal, whereas I have grandparents on my paternal, my father's side, that taught me some of the trade. But they've made things like blankets and wearables. And I was introduced to it being in different scales by my great-grandmother, who made clothing for dolls.
Right.
And it was such great stuff to be handed, and I cannot wait to pull it out, much more aware of how to follow the pattern now, and even maybe making them for Olivia or whatever. I know that that's all what she always wanted me to do, was continue on making the doll clothes, and now I'm making dolls.
Yes.
And so it's like
She would be so proud of you.
So I'm gonna help them lay back down real quick.
All right.
But yeah, tell them more about the stuff that she used to make.
Yeah, she was so good at just like plastic canvas. I had calendars made from her. that you switched out the month each month, and then you could switch out where the numbers would go on it. It was a perpetual, and it was so nice. And then we had each one of us granddaughters got, quite a large doll with the clothes that went with it, like a Victorian doll. And I don't know, that she had her sitting on her bed. That's what she told us, it was our bed doll. It would sit on her bed after she made it, and that's how she taught us that once you make your bed, you put that doll on your bed, and it's it watches over your bed during the day. And so you just have these special memories of your grandparents, and that's one of mine. That was my mom's mom. The one that had the tulips was my dad's mom. So, I'm having all these memories of my grandparents, and my kids were always involved with them also, because we were very much part of their great grandparents' lives as they were growing up until they all passed. So
I was just thinking about the fact of the bed dolls thing. I know I had one. I don't know if that was one that you gave to me, or was that one that she made.
She
for
had
me.
to have made it for you, because that was her thing, and
That was her gift.
Nobody else did that.
Yeah, it was so. I always found mine creepy just because I came from an era.
Oh.
These dolls are older, and so they are dressed
Like the
Victorian. And they're not porcelain or anything. I think they're plastic.
Yeah,
But she gets the doll, and she dresses it head to foot. I'm talking like every single layer. I'm talking the
petticoats,
the knickers, the petticoats, the vest, the corset, every single the hat, all the layers for the tulle, everything you can think of, including even just the gloves and the scarf and all the embellishments, and everything was so meticulous. And it's a heavy doll.
Yeah.
And I just remember mine was the blue one. And just being like, I don't know what to do with this. Because at the time I was a kid, and I just remember thinking this is too delicate to play with.
Right.
And yet I didn't realize that her intention was for me to play with it. She wanted me to enjoy it thoroughly, because I thought, I don't want to break it. I don't want to seem disrespectful to this gift, and everyone has one. And now I'm just sitting there being like, she really wanted us to actually enjoy them and play with them. And like,
here's the backstory on that. My grandmother, when she was a little girl, had one toy.
Well, yep.
And it was a rabbit.
It was a little bunny.
And she
still had it.
Yeah, still had it when she died, because it was her only toy growing up. And it was because her father had left, and the mother had to raise 4 daughters on her own.
Before she passed
away from cancer.
And when she passed away from cancer, she was living with her brothers, my grandmother, and my great aunts, uncles, and they were left in their care.
Yeah.
And
that was the only toy she had, so she wanted us all to
have a toy. And so my grandfather, her husband, made a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
He was a big crafter. She made a lot of things. And it's one of those things, it's like, yeah, she made blankets, she made all those things that you stereotypically would have, but like, and I'm not saying that making doll clothes is out of fashion, especially even at that time, because they would make them out of paper, make them out of leftover rags and stuff, because, toys are expensive. Even now they're expensive. But it's one of those things where it's like she made extravagance.
Yes.
It's the equivalent of a real layered dress. Not just here's a skirt and a top. It's every layer of clothing.
She enjoyed what she did.
And it was meticulous and very very detailed.
Yes.
And I remember when I look at how to make an origami doll, and I'm looking at, getting the little mannequin pieces and investing in what I'm going to have to do to create stands and stuff for these dolls, and even learning how to make joints. I've been telling her that I've been looking at doing classes to be able to make the faces, and I showed you how you can obviously make just a oval shape into having eye sockets and noses, and just by the way that you stitch it together.
Yeah.
And she's just like, this is so cool, and I'm like, I'm so excited about this. And like I said, I just had that memory pull up of Grandma just giving us all these gifts, and the pride that my grandfather had and her ability to make said clothes.
Oh yeah.
And she was always crafting every single day. There was always a craft in her basket.
Yeah.
And there was always something that she was doing when you came into her house.
Yeah.
And just realizing that we come by this very naturally.
Yeah. We do. All four of our grandparents were just a collection of crafty, minded people.
And all I know is that when she, like I said, she found out that she had stage 4 cancer. She's in her 90s, but she was still right in her brain. And she knew that eventually the illness would affect her greatly, to the point where she wasn't going to be able to really talk and speak with us. So she did that open will, where she just had everyone come and take what they wanted, and then have the rest of it be decided to sell, to be able to help her as she ended up being moved to the Hermitage.
Which is a hospice.
Hospice. My apologies. And her taking me to the closet and just handing it to me, expecting.
And what did she say?
I want you to keep doing this.
Yeah, she said, I want you to learn patterns, or how to read patterns, Sarah, because then you're going to go a lot further.
She said to learn how to read, because I was making things without patterns because they were scary. At my age, it felt daunting. I felt like if I made a mistake, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I could pull it out and just keep going and keep trying and figuring it out for myself. Whereas now patterns are just like all the effort and the work is taken out of it. I already know what to do. Not that I can't just go off, figure it out, because I do that still a lot. But it's one of those, like, if I really don't want to waste time, I just buy a pattern, because now I know that all the kinks have been
worked out. Yeah.
So in my head, it's a matter of how much brain power do I have? Do I want to?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I know the feeling.
Do I want to do this on my own, or do I want to just have it done? And so that's how I make my decisions. But I remember her handing them to me and being like, well, if you want me to learn how to do patterns, how do you read them? Can you teach me how? She's like, I don't know how this isn't already obvious. She's like, you learn the abbreviations, and then they just tell you what to do on each row. Do that. Now, for as simple as that is, it still blew over my head at that age. Cause
she was a very blunt person.
But just that expectation, I'm giving these to you because you're the only one that is going to be able to do this. And me just being like, what? How are you going to know what I'm going to be able to do? Like,
she knew you were smart enough to do it.
And so, but now I'm looking at the stuff that I'm doing now, being like, yeah, she might have had something.
She knew you were going to be able to do this. She probably looked into the future and just knew that this was going to be the thing that you were going to fall back on, just like it was for her.
Mm-hmm. So it's just one of the things, knowing that we come by this naturally, even just the idea of wanting to make things that are not in the traditional sense what most yarn is used for. Because let's be real, with toys, it's in the eye of the beholder as to its worth, right?
Right.
It's impractical in every way.
Yeah.
But I love spending my life making them. So I'm impractical and I like it.
Yeah, there you go. And then that's kind of what I was thinking too. This blanket is the only thing that I'm working on. I am not working on several projects, trying to just work on it, this. I don't have anything else in the works. I am only working on this. And therefore, because I was thinking about that the other night, I was like, sometimes I just wish I had another project to work on so I can just say I didn't get to this week. But I have a deadline. I want this done by actual spring coming up, which is March, 20th or 21st? Yeah. I want it done by then. So if I'm going to get it done by then, I have to have the
proof.
I just got to do it. So, and I'll be glad when it is done because I want to see it. I love the fact, and I want to be able to do a border on it with the lacy color. I think that's going to be a beautiful thing to do. But yeah, it's still a work in progress, and I am working on it. It's just, and I've been working on my office too, so that has been taking a lot of my time.
Listen.
So.
Listen. Last week I started this. Right here, right from the beginning, right while we're on camera. Wanna know how far I am? Right here. You wanna know why? Because I've been tired. I was telling my mom about this. I've been exhausted. This is the only thing I have to show for you today. Is this. Because I've done nothing. Not one thing. I've been so tired. Like, the only thing I have been having the energy for, and I don't know why. I've read probably like 3, 4 books.
Wow.
This week, maybe 5. Like, I read 1 book last night.
Well, maybe that's why you're tired. Gee.
But here's the thing. My husband, for my birthday,
For your birthday? Oh, yeah. Okay.
got me a Kindle.
Yeah.
And that thing has just made reading a breeze. Because it doesn't have the blue light. It has a very specific color that does not wane on the eyes. You do have the light on the background so that you can be able to see it at night, but you can turn up its brightness or down its brightness. Okay. It doesn't drain the battery. There's no notifications on it. Like, it's only connected to my Audible account, so I can download my Audible stuff and have that just with me, just as much as I can have all my books. And I'm on Kindle Unlimited. I have my subscription, so I have a range of amazing amount of books. And I'm just able to download it and just go, and it fits in my pockets.
I can see why you're getting so much reading done.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, it's not hurting my eyes. I know it seems weird, but my eyes have been getting really strained this week. Like, I'm struggling with just being tired, having a headache randomly, or just being anxious about stuff that have been going on. And most of the time, if I'm anxious and I have a lot of energy, it doesn't affect my eyes. So
Yeah.
But this has been putting me to sleep. I'm serious. I pick up I put something in my ears. I deliberately pick this up, and I'm just trying to listen to something while doing this intentionally. I've been falling asleep. I'm falling asleep in my chair because my eyes get so tired. But yeah, if I turn my Kindle on and I'm just reading it, it doesn't hurt my eyes. And so I end up realizing that's 1 o'clock in the morning and I just finished a book I started at 9 o'clock.
Well, maybe you should go to the eye doctor again and get checked.
I know that it's because of the weather. This is something that happens around the winter time.
Yeah, that's another thing, the weather. We had snow, then it melted, now it's snowing again. And tomorrow it's supposed to rain, so we're supposed to get ice. And we are busy. with the kids. I mean, between today having the recording, and then tomorrow we've got to take Kaniel to the doctor, and that's a whole nother town away.
It's just, there's so much going on the next 3 days.
And then the next day, Kaniel's got
Another
appointment.
He has that appointment again today, actually.
Another one today?
Yeah, because they end up canceling on me Monday.
Oh, gee whiz. Okay, so that's why the carrots.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay,
We're having a private conversation in front of all y'all.
So, okay, so it's a busy time, but it's also very gray. Outside it's snowing.
Or it's just enough snow with sun, and then it's bright.
Right in your eyes.
Oh, God.
So
I don't like it.
So that's where we're at with that, you know, and people do get sad in the wintertime, which is what, seasonal affective disorder.
And I'm not saying that that's what I have. I just, the constant differences in the shades of light, I already have eye problems. And my ability to see is very dependent on the volume of light, or if there's too much light.
Yeah.
And because there's constantly snow or a lack of snow, I get used to, I love cloudy weather because it's not too much sun.
Right.
But when there is snow and you think, oh, well, it's going to be cloudy. No. Because as soon as that sun comes out, it reflects off the sun and you can get sun blindness. And
yeah,
it's obnoxious. So I've just been struggling. Like, for some reason, that Kindle keeps me awake. But this, I'm falling asleep to it. I feel it in my eyes right now. Just trying to do this.
So with that, I'm going to jump over to the scripture, which has a story behind that too.
Okay, real quick. This is to match that. It's to make a tulip bulb.
Yeah.
Big tulip bulb.
It's going to be so cute.
Yes.
So I was at my cousin
everywhere today.
Cousin Phyllis's for dinner last week, and her and her boyfriend invited us, my husband and I, to their house for dinner.
Yum yum.
And it was wonderful. And so the two guys were talking about a property that William, Phyllis's boyfriend, has in Memphis. And my husband was saying, that he had kept his vow with his mother. It was his mother's property that he inherited when his mother died 12 years ago. And that Jeff was saying, my husband was saying, that he had kept his vow to his mom, and that if no other family members wanted the house, that he should go ahead and sell it. And I was thinking in my head that, because my husband said something about, there's a verse in the Bible about vows and how we're not supposed to vow to other people, but I was in my head, and it must have showed on my face because William went like this and he wanted me to hold off my thought for a minute. But in my head I'm thinking, Phyllis and William want to get married and they have to say vows. So when I got a chance, all I said was, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And I just thought I'd just hold off on the vow thing until later on. Well, I opened up my thing of scriptures, the notes that I've taken for years and years and years, and the first page falls to the exact scripture about vows. And so I know Phyllis will get a kick out of this because she knows, just like I do, that nothing happens by happenstance. It's all God. So here's the scripture. Better not to vow than to vow and not pay. And that's found in Ecclesiastes 5:5. And I'm thinking that's New King James Version. And in here I put a note, vow kind of equals promise. You don't promise unless you plan to promise, or you fulfill that promise. Don't make a vow that you're not going to keep. And right above it, it says, fear God, keep your vows. Make sure that if you're saying something to somebody that you plan to do at that moment, make sure that you actually do it. Because if you don't, that counts against you. People will not trust you if you don't keep up with what you're saying you're going to do. If you're going to vow something to somebody, if you're going to promise something to somebody, make sure that you come through and fulfill that. And I just thought I'm going to bring that up because, it was not on my mind. But when I opened up this book, that was the first thing that fell through. And I immediately thought of that conversation that we had at their house just last weekend. And this is only Wednesday. That meal was less than a week ago. And so I thought, well, I'm going to bring it up. So, yeah, what do you think?
Well, I just was thinking, you got that that chapter in James that talks about, the tongue being the udder of a ship, which is a very small piece of wood underneath the ship that can be steered to help dictate the flow of how you want the boat to turn or navigate as it's slicing through the water.
Yeah.
And it helps it maintain its course by keeping, it's like a fin.
Yeah.
And it dictates your direction.
Yes.
And so when James is talking about it just being like, your tongue is an udder, and, a person indecisive is like untamed waters.
Yeah.
Because you're just left with very little control and very little reliability.
Yeah.
And I learned how important it is to not only keep promises, but to keep them to yourself. Like promises that you make to yourself.
Yeah, even those.
Though, it's insane how much how much we don't really understand how important even keeping promises to ourselves is, and how that can just tear us up if we don't follow through with something that we said we were going to do. Hold the boundary, hold this, hold whatever. And it's one of those things that when we make a commitment, it's one thing we need to stick by because our integrity is on the line. But then there's another thing to that. And that is, people can say things very foolishly and very quickly, committing to something that they don't even realize that they're doing. Or it could be a trauma response, and you're just you're fawning, you're doing everything that you can to people please and try to make the conversation get away, be done. So you're agreeing to everything, not even realizing that you're doing it. And that happens a lot. I know a lot of people that struggle with that, and I've struggled with that myself, agreeing to something that I never would have wanted to do if I was in my ability to feel strong enough to say so, that I'm willing to say yes just to get out of it and to make them not unpleasant to me before I leave, because I don't like confrontation.
Right.
And I struggle with the whole thing of I don't feel like I was being true to myself saying yes, but now I've said yes and I don't want to say no again.
Yeah.
And very interesting practice of that. Always, and I'm speaking about this because I just feel like this is going to reach some people, that if you struggle with your commitments, that doesn't mean that you are not a good person or something, especially with something like this. This is referring to people that don't intend to keep their promises, or to feel that it's not that big of a deal if they bite themselves in the butt by lying because that's what it ends up being. It always translates to a lack of trust, of being able to trust that person's capability of integrity if they're not going to be able to follow through with what they said that they're going to do. And there's people that do it very intentionally, where they'll say pretty words just to get people to commit and do their half of the agreement and then never follow through on their half.
Yeah.
Or you make that promise to someone who is very dear to you that cannot do that fulfillment on their own or on their own time, and for you not to do that is to them showing how much you do not care about them and the relationship that you have, or different things like that. And there are people that genuinely do it to spite people, or really feel that they are not in the wrong to cut that. But then there's people, like I have mentioned, where they made a commitment but now it causes them anxiety, or they were anxious when the commitment was being made. And I just suggest that if you're in that situation, the best practice is, can you give me 24 hours to think about this? Or can I please check my calendar first, or something that gives you an ability to say, I will consider it. Thank you. But I need time. I need 24 hours, or I need the ability to look at and make sure that I'm available or am capable. And if you're able to be like, okay, this is actually maybe something that I'm more willing to do than not, and outside of the realm of peer pressure, I'm able to make that decision, okay. But if you realize that this is something you really don't want to do, you have the ability to then be like, I have taken the time to look, I am really not available, or this is not something I am interested in participating in, and I would think that it would be better for you to find someone that would be better suited for it and more willing to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And honesty is a great policy, and just being able to separate yourself and not continuously put yourself in a compromising situation, because for those that do follow through in the way that I've described, it's very painful, because you are stuck around people that you're uncomfortable with, or in a situation that you really do not feel like you're called to or want to be a part of, and you say it out of peer pressure, and you follow through anyway because you feel bad not to do as you want to do.
Right.
But there is that reality that people that do actually follow through do it out of not only a moral obligation, but more out of, those are people that know what it feels like to have been let down.
Oh yeah.
People that generally keep their promises know what it feels like to have been let down, and they don't want to do that. And so regardless of whether they are holding on to commitments that they respectfully have or haven't done, or whatever it is, like, you know, with Phyllis's William, he made a commitment to his mom to be able to do and fulfill certain things while certain properties or certain possessions or whatever was in his care. And it seems like he's very much fulfilled those, but he's still clinging on to it because he feels like he doesn't want to let his mom down. Understandable.
Yeah.
But his mom wouldn't want him to be holding on to something that is causing him this amount of stress either.
Right.
And there's that narrative, right? Your mom was asking you to do and accomplish a task. Yes, you did fulfill that. And that is not something to be dictated. The dictation is now, how do you set the boundary to be able to give yourself permission to let go and say that you have done that, and navigate that, because it can be a very hard thing to be able to do it, especially when it was with someone so dear to you. But I just very much suggest, when you're dealing with making vows, the only reason why it tells you in the Bible not to is not a matter of not being able to make a commitment. It's about recognizing what you're doing, because if you do it with no intention of following through,
that's just a lie.
Or if you make a commitment and only are half-hearted in it, or treat it as if it's not important, it shows the value of your relationship with the person that you made it with, and they have more than the right to be upset. Or it just shows your lack of follow-through, work ethic, and there's a difference between feeling peer pressured into doing something or committing to something and backing out and voicing that, and making a promise and a commitment and a vow to somebody to actually do something and breaking it and thinking that you've done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
That's two different things.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to put two different scenarios out there.
Right.
Like you said, most people that have been, hi baby, most people that have been, that hold their commitments. Yeah.
You are.
Don't even realize.
Right. Well, and
They do what they do when they hold their commitments because they have been hurt and they know what it feels like to have been let down. Sweetie, I know you like it. We're about to finish up, okay?
and I respect those people that want to check their calendars first or whatever. And I've learned from those people because we know people like that. Let me check my calendar. I'm not going to say yes until I know what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't want to say something that I can't fulfill. And I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be more like that. I learned from those kind of people. So now I say that all the time. Let me check my calendar because I can't say nothing until I do that.
I think the biggest thing for me is the ability to be able to know myself that I want to do something.
Yeah, that too.
Because even if I know my calendar up here, being able to be like, I really don't want to be a part of this. And it's not for the lack of it not being important. It's that I know that I'm not going to be beneficial if I'm not a part of it fully.
Yeah.
Or I'm just doing it to make you happy. Or I feel like I have no other choice because of the situation. I would rather be able to be honest. And if they don't like my honesty, that's not my fault. I'm still being candid or honest enough. And depending on the situation, just being able to be like, I need time to think about that. Well, just say yes.
Yeah.
No,
that's just
not. That's not how this works.
Right.
And being able to take that power back, because many times in my most of my younger life was always making yourself available to the point where the expectation became so high that this is what we expect of you, that to say no was so demonized that I just had to learn to not let that affect me. I have the right to say no.
Exactly.
Let my yes be yes and my no be no, and don't be upset for the fact that I have boundaries, and don't cross those, because those are the promises I've made to myself.
Right.
That I'm not going to let people cross anymore.
And when you keep the promises to yourself, then you start trusting yourself to make those decisions.
Yep, and on top of it, boundaries are there to be able to keep you safe, but if they get crossed and you have to fulfill your consequences, or even if you're someone who feels like they've done nothing wrong to not pay, or they feel like they don't have to pay or fulfill their vow, and the consequences that they no longer get the relationship that they promised to, you don't have the right to say that they're overreacting, or that you're the victim when you're the one who wasn't willing to follow through.
Yeah, true.
So there's two sides to every story, but to be able to be clear, practice self-awareness, practice your ability to be able to know whether this is something that you want to actually commit to. And for things that you've committed to, recognize that it is your follow-through is the recognition of the worth of that relationship. But if you have fulfilled it, don't feel like you are almost kind of like reciprocity, that you still owe more than you did when you made a commitment and you kept to that commitment. Right. You have fulfilled it. Do not feel like you owe more.
Right.
Don't feel like you have to feel guilty about it. You have the right to move on.
Right. Better not to vow than to vow and not pay. Ecclesiastes 5:5.
So we are running way past the time that we had planned to. We definitely spoke a lot, and we did have a couple of interruptions from littles, but we are grateful for anyone that has stayed to the end.
Yes.
This is obviously kind of a haywire sort of a video. It's midwinter break. Kind of didn't get as much done as we both wanted to, and we kind of were just reminiscing on a lot of different family matters, and we hope that you enjoyed our fellowship, and we hope that at least you guys possibly got some stuff done in this last 45 minutes. But as always, we love you guys, and we hope that you stitch your way
to mental health.
I want to